Well, it's about as beautiful a start to a day as you can possibly get. I'm in Glenlochy, which is right at the western end of Loch Tay, just west of Killin. We're in the run of a bit of cold weather, probably even though it's not really cold, it's probably the coldest spell we've had since spring 2013. We've been stuck in a peculiar spell of weather for the past few weeks where we've had storms and it's got a bit mild, and then it goes very cold and we get dumped lots of snow, and then it melts, then we get a storm, and then it gets cold, then it snows, and it's just been this peculiar merry-go-round of thawing, freezing, and we wondered if we'd ever get a settled spell to actually enjoy the snow that's steadily been accumulating on the hills, and this is one such day. It's pretty tough going. It looks like there's over a foot of lying snow further up. Certainly in the Glencoe area there is, and it looks like there's a lot here too. So I brought my fun tools for the day. My snowshoes, I think it's time to get them out. These ones are actually larger of the two pairs I have. The other ones probably aren't, probably don't give as much flotation, because you still sink, but it spreads the weight across the snow, so you don't actually sink quite so much. It's really, you don't need special shoes, you don't need special boots like you do with skiing and snowboarding. You just need normal boots, and you just put your foot in, you just strap in, and you just put the bindings on. As you move, your foot moves on this, pivots on this, so you've got a crampon on the front, so when you're going uphill it digs in, and you have teeth along the edge to give you extra traction, and especially here as well, to stop you from sliding downhill. The genius bit is this, the heel lift, which you can plonk up for when you're going uphill, so your heel actually sort of sits on it like that and takes some of the strain off your ankle. It makes such a huge difference. It's a shame that boots don't come with that. Always with a sense of trepidation, crossing snow bridges like this. I'm sure it'll be fine. There we go. Rather annoyingly, blue sky was forecast and it's quickly disappeared. There's some up there, up ahead, but as you can see over there, don't know, I don't know if we're going to get any today, which will be a bit disappointing. Anyway, today I am heading up a hill called Beinn and Oighreag, which is that one over there. It's a Corbett. It's a little over 900 meters in height, and given the snow conditions and the forecast for fine sunny weather, I thought I'd try and repeat one of my most memorable walks. So memorable, in fact, I can still remember the day I did it. It was 12th of January 2008, so almost 7 years to the day. The snow was new and deep, and it wasn't crisp, but it was even. And so it was quite nice to kick through, and there's lots of surface haul on the ground, and it was really powdery and soft. Today, it's really crusty. You can hear from the noisy walking of the snowshoes, they're still being useful, but it's quite a crunchy, crusty surface on this snow down here, so hopefully it will soften up a bit higher, but also if the sun comes out, which it doesn't look like it's going to. This is Glenlochy here, which runs parallel pretty much to Glen Lyon, which is when you go off the end of Beinn and Oighreag and you fall down, you go into Glen Lyon down that way. These two glens that run parallel to each other, and there's a couple of ways you can cross between the two by car, although I'm sure they're closed at the moment, that route. I think it's time you got a bit of height. It's amazing how things can turn around, isn't it? Look at that. Blue sky is coming. As promised, the forecast just came good. How dare I doubt them? Just a bit later than was expected. What's quite remarkable is how I've gone from that really crunchy, horrid snow back there to this lovely soft stuff. Completely different conditions in the space of 100 metres. I think really since I've come out of this this cleft here, which leads, it's like a little glen that leads down to Glen Lockie. But now that I'm actually up here, oh, it's like another world. And the reason I chose this hill, thinking it was going to be sunny, is because that's north, that's south, so you can see that the sun would, it's going to be in the sun all morning. It can be quite often the case in winter when you set out on walks that you plan wonderful walks, then you find you're in the freezing cold glen, and by the time you get up onto the ridges, the sun's disappeared behind cloud. So I deliberately planned this one so I knew I'd be in the sunshine. Well, there's been something of a rapid turnaround in conditions, and all of a sudden I had to get rid of some layers. The neckerchief's gone on to protect my neck from sunburn. Oh, there's not a breath of wind. It's proper alpine weather, no wind at all, and it's quite warm in the sun. It's just bliss and having a sandwich. Wow. You'd never know that there'd been cloud this morning. I mean, look at it now. It's just so different. It's ridiculous. But you see this over here, there's this big long stream of cloud, this high cirrus cloud that's coming in. That's heralds a front coming in. So the sunshine, the bright blue sunshine, it's not going to last for long. It'll still be bright and shadowy, I suppose, but there's more bad weather coming in. So just enjoy it while it lasts. I was actually going to head out over sort of onto the next adjacent ridge, but don't fucking be bothered. It's just so nice just sitting here. I might just go up to the top, see what time it is when I get up there. It's about 12 o'clock now. There's about 4.5 hours of useful light left, maybe more actually. I've got my torch, so we'll see what it's like. I mean, just listen to that. I can hear a helicopter because there's a helicopter way out over in the distance, but there is no wind at all. Utterly calm, which is remarkable in itself just because of how windy it's been over the last few weeks. Incessant storms, barely a breath in between them. Do you know, I don't think I got a single day like this last winter. What with all the storms and whatnot. There's no sound at all. I can hear my heart thumping. That's all I can hear. Oh, it's so beautiful. Well, it's a big long line of red deer heading in search of food, I imagine. Won't be much of it down there. Quite a few of them, eh? Just to put it into context, where they are. Quite something. I'm not sure it gets much better than this. Just look at this. It's Beinn Lawes right over there, and this is a Ptarmigan Ridge looking out into Perthshire. Oh god, there's just no breeze at all. Can't really get over it. It's been a very long time since I had conditions like this. Just forgot how wonderfully uplifting it is to get blue sky, snow, warmth when there's no wind whatsoever. You might think that that's, if you're not from Scotland, if you live overseas, in continental places like Scandinavia or the Alps, where you might have a more stable climate much of the winter, and you might have high pressure and you might get days like this all the time. Certainly I've been skiing in the Alps where you get very, very calm days, even high up on top of the mountains. I can't recall many ski trips I've had where it's been windy, but it's so rare here to get conditions like this. So people might think I'm mad for sort of going on about it. Oh yeah, so what, blue skies, but look at it. It's just amazing, amazing. I mean, in summer when everything's green, it looks like a very, very big, unending wilderness. But there is something about having snow cover which does alter your perception of it, and it feels very different. It feels wilder, it feels bigger, a bit more serious, so much more beautiful, I can't tell you. And especially in this part of Perthshire where there's not that many man-made intrusions. Certainly wind farms haven't made it into here yet. So it does look like, I don't know, I mean it does look like parts of Sweden or some plateau in Norway or even Greenland, places like that, you know, funny places you wouldn't think, but it looks, you'd never know. If you showed this photo, if you showed a photo of that to somebody and said, you know, where is it? I think people would have a hard time placing it with Scotland, because when you see it like this, it is just this Arctic wilderness and hardly anything's moving. I've seen a few red grouse, that's all I've seen today. And I haven't really seen anything else moving apart from the sheep down in the farm at the bottom. But once you get up here, I mean, it's you're the only person up here, you're the only living thing up here for the most part. There are things, foxes, other things up here, but today they're conspicuous by their absence. It's just me. I can't hear anything. It's so quiet. Oh wow. What a day. Shame it has to end. Anyway, I'm not quite at the top yet, so I better push on. I've just taken the snowshoes off for this final haul to the summit, because as you can see there's very little snow up here. It's all been blown off and it's just a glaze of ice over everything, which isn't much fun walking on. I do have my crampons with me, but it's all on the level. I can just teeter over there, it's not far. But I think I will make this do, this hill, instead of going all the way over there. I was going to come up this ridge here, go down into the Oighreag down there and come up and go all the way up and down. Would have been nice, that's what I did last time, but I've been faffing quite a bit with the camera and video camera as well. And the snow, I mean it looks amazing, but the snow's not that great because it's so uneven in its distribution, and that seems to be the case most of the time in Scotland, of course. It's snowshoes are really useful when everything falls level and you get the same sort of deep snow everywhere, but when it gets shunted around by the wind, as it has done over the past week or so, it doesn't mean you can keep them on all the time. And as with anything like crampons, using your ice axe, there comes a point where they become a hindrance rather than a help, and actually can start endangering your life potentially, or in the case of the snowshoes, you'll just start knackering them, you'll just start denting them, and you'll be walking on rocks, so it's no point in sort of keeping them on for this last stretch. But once I go down there again, I'm going to go down there, I'll probably need them again. But what I think I'll do, seeing as the front's coming in and it's going to get a bit cloudier, I thought rather than struggle around on this glazy ice all the way up this ridge, which might not be much fun, amazing as it looks, I'll just drop down into the glen. There's going to be deeper snow down there. The sun would have loosened it up a bit, and just have a nice level walk out of the glen, which I've never walked out of this high glen before, so it'll be a new one for me. So that's nice. Oh, here we are. A rather unassuming cairn, Beinn and Oighreag, and sadly that flipping great big wodge of clouds come over, and suddenly my ears are stinging because it's so cold. And it is really gone cold. Right. Tea and cake and some warm clothes. Well, I've actually changed my mind. It was brutally cold up there, even though the wind wasn't that strong, so I thought I'd just come down here a little bit, somewhere more sheltered, somewhere where maybe I can even get some sunshine. If I head down there, perhaps might get lucky. Do you know what's really, really staggering? Beyond the fact that all this is just staggering anyway, just in its wild, empty beauty, but the fact that this is all so close to the central belt, to large population centres. I barely drove 90 minutes this morning to get to Killin, down there, down at Loch Tay. You just don't have to drive any distance at all in winter, as long as you get the conditions. It's staggering how you can have stuff like this right on your doorstep. You can have Arctic wilderness within easy reach of large population centres like Edinburgh, Glasgow, Stirling, Perth, Dundee. Incredible that we have this on our doorstep. We're so lucky. I can't tell you how lucky and privileged I feel to have something like this. And I know I try not to take things like this for granted, but I think sometimes I do. Especially when you go further down south of the border, maybe where I grew up in the Midlands, where you had to drive 90 minutes down into Wales, maybe to the Brecon Beacons, to find anything close to this kind of stuff. Or if you go even further down to the southeast, I mean, there's nothing like this. Not everyone wants this. I mean, not saying that people are deficient in some way because they don't have this on their doorstep, and who's to say they'd use it if it was there. Not everyone wants an Arctic wilderness on their doorstep, but I do, and I'm so grateful, so thankful, so happy that it's here and it looks like this today. It's incredible. Scotland's an amazing place. It's also featureless, isn't it? I went chasing the sun and it ran away from me. It's all the way over there now. It's like the Cairngorms maybe was the place to be today, but it just didn't have the snow. So it was a compromise. Anyway, I keep changing my mind. I was going to have lunch just up there, but kind of don't want to stop because it is cold. I know I'm still wearing the kind of stuff that I was wearing when it was really sunny, but it's incredible how cold it gets so quickly as soon as you lose the sun. So, but I do need to eat something. I do need to have a hot drink. So I haven't really eaten much today. Just watching that last bit of sun disappearing. All those lucky people on top of Ben Lawers. Well, if it's good enough for sheep, plenty of poo everywhere. Good enough for me. Beautiful light now. I mean, it is so cold. I can't tell you how cold my fingers are. But and we might not have the sun, but there's that lovely, lovely winter light thing happening. Right, all fed, all my clothes on. It's actually a bit of blue sky showing through again now the sun's actually getting lower. Might get a few bright moments on the way back. But last section, just all the way back out flat down the glen. Oh, it's cold. It is a proper Arctic wilderness, isn't it? If you're wondering where all the snow was, up at the top, it's all down here. And this is really the kind of thing I was expecting today, so I'm very, very, very happy to have found deep snow in this high pass, I suppose it's Oighreag, because now the snowshoes are coming into their own, and this feels wonderful. Very uplifting, very happy. Such a beautiful, beautiful light. Well, I have to admit this is a late, unexpected flourish that I wasn't expecting. I think when I saw those clouds go over earlier, I thought that was it. I thought that was the end. I mean, there's still the really wispy stuff that's heralding the incoming weather, but never expected it to clear like this. It just goes to show how the hills can surprise you. Wow, it's cleared up an absolute treat. Incredible. Oh, I'm in another stream bed. One to avoid, just in case. I'm actually really glad I came this way. This is surprisingly large, flat area, this pass, in between Glens Lyon and Lochie. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's Upland Perthshire, it feels somewhere much more wild than that. It's amazing. It really does look like the back of beyond, doesn't it? Wonderful! It does look like the weather up there is finally looks a bit more grim over there now than it did. Whereas before it was a red herring. Now that it looks a bit worse. There's supposed to be some wet weather pushing in. Oh, I'm in a burn. Oh dear. That came out of nowhere. Should have known I was coming. After all, there you are. That's what I went down. Should know better, really. It just looks such a nice little U-shaped defile to go through. I thought, oh, that's nice. I'll go through there. But yes, as I was saying, wet weather's supposed to be coming in. And when it pushes up against the cold air, more likely than not it's going to turn to snow. And we'll get some more snow. So who knows when this cycle will end. Wow, that's a huge and precariously placed boulder. I'm sure it will maintain its position just while I'm walking past. Well, it's been a really satisfying day. the most beautiful, beautiful light that I've seen in a very long time. And day full of surprises. Didn't start out the way I hoped it might. The way it was supposed to start out didn't come until a few hours later, and then we had all of 90 minutes of dazzling sunshine, followed by gloom, cold, and then it was all saved again when that amazing light came out. So it's ended up being memorable, not for the reasons I thought it might be. There was me thinking I was just going to do a reprise of my memorable walk from 7 years ago, but it ended up being something quite different, which is to be expected because conditions underfoot are very rarely identical on two occasions that you go to a hill, especially in winter when you have different kinds of snow. If you get to the snow that fell a few days after other people got to it, chances are they may get it when it's nice and deep and powdery, and you get it when it's hard and crusty. It's always changing. It's just, when it falls, it doesn't just stay as it is. It changes and changes, and eventually it'll compact down to ice given half a chance. So you never really know what you're going to find. Had I known that it wasn't powdery and instead it was quite firm, crunchy, I wouldn't have brought these snowshoes, because these ones are used for when it's those kinds of conditions, because it gives you a lot of flotation on the snow. Because it is so consolidated, I should have brought my smaller ones really. These ones, they've done fine, but the bigger they are, the noisier they are, and they're a bit unwieldy, I suppose. If you've got rocks sticking out, you're not quite as manoeuvrable the larger the snowshoes you have. But I'm still glad I've got them. It would have taken me forever otherwise. It's just nice to have been able to use them. Didn't get to use them at all last year because well, the winter was awful. This year's worked out a bit better. Hopefully, now that we're about halfway through winter, middle of January, the rest of the winter will continue in the same form. Fingers crossed.